Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for joining us today. My name is John Emmett, and I'm glad to have everybody here for our webinar with Simply Automate, where they're going to share how they've achieved 10x ROI in 6 months. It's a real RPA managed services success story, and I'm excited to have the Simply Automate team with us today. Before we dive in, I did want to mention just a couple of quick housekeeping items. We are recording the webinar, and we will make a link to the recording available to everybody who registered within the next couple of days. And we will also have Q&A, so please use the Zoom Q&A feature to ask any questions that you might have, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can toward the end of the presentation. So with that, let's introduce our other speakers. So I'm again really excited to have both Wilton Rogers and David McKenzie, as well as Jason Hewitt from the Simply Automate team joining me today for this webinar. Wilton is CEO at Simply Automate, and David McKenzie is Director of Sales, and Jason is their Director of Marketing, if I'm not mistaken. So welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both there.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And I think it's a really exciting success story. So we're going to dive into that here in a few minutes. Before we get to that, I wanted to just kind of introduce, set the stage a bit for Wilton and team, and talk a little bit first about the MSP opportunity in the automation as a service space. And the first aspect of this is based on a report that Xerox published last year, which showed that 80% of small and medium-sized business leaders see automating tasks and processes as important to their survival. So that really struck me as pretty amazing, right? That not only is it important to their business, but literally important to the survival of their business. And 80% of SMB leaders saying that is just amazing to me. So that kind of gives you an idea of how important automating processes is to many of the customers that you're already providing services to as maybe a technology or IT service provider. And then the second piece of this is just the general market opportunity around RPA services. So this report and this graphic is based on research done by Grandview Research, and shows that the RPA industry is growing at a compound annual growth rate of more than 32% over the next 6 or 7 years, which is pretty amazing also, more than 32% growth. And the services component of that is growing at 30% per year. So again, it just represents this huge opportunity to offer RPA as a service to your clients. It's growing so fast, 30% per year is probably 4x the average growth of the average MSP. And another key aspect of this is understanding why your small and medium-sized businesses really need managed automation services. And there are a few reasons here. The first is lack of RPA expertise. So typical, small, medium business enterprise does not have this, this expertise on staff, right? They don't have RPA developers. They don't have people who are familiar with RPA solutions, development platforms and bot management tools and things like that. So they don't have that expertise in-house typically. And it's going to be a lot more expensive for them to build that expertise internally compared to going to an outside MSP to provide those services. So that's the first reason. Second reason is cost and risk reduction, because again, they would have to spend a lot more money to hire people and train them and buy the tools to be able to create this expertise internally, whereas going to a managed service provider like Simply Automate is a much lower cost and risk approach. It's lower risk because you are tapping the expertise of the managed service provider, and they're coming in with the knowledge and the experience, and lower that risk of doing a successful RPA project. And the last bit is just the fact that by outsourcing the automation services to an MSP, they can continue to focus on their core business. Again, they don't have the expertise. Let's focus on their core business and allow the automation experts to do automation. And I guess I'm interested to kind of get your perspectives on that, Wilton and David, in terms of, when you've spoken with your clients, how does that sort of play out when you've had that conversation?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I'm glad you're speaking about the lack of RPA expertise. And what I mean by that, there's such a big gap between people understanding what RPA can really do. And if they don't have a real understanding of it, they can't take full advantage of it. So there's a huge gap with people that don't know anything and people that think they know everything. And then there's people like us that actually have been doing it for years and years and years that really understand it. And by being able to help people understand where their gap is and where they need to start from with what they have is so important. So it's an easy transition to be able to take full benefits and get the full value out of RPA. So it's huge. And that's what's really allowed our business to grow, which we'll go into in a bit. But yeah, David.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think John brought up a great point, especially in the current market conditions with all the labor shortages. A lot of the calls we get on with our clients, they always have growth plans of, hey, we're looking to hire 80 people in 2022. We get done with the discovery call with them and we, stick very educational based with our first contact with our clients, making sure that they truly understand the difference between automation and RPA. And we kind of gear those conversations to, okay, let's still keep that same growth strategy of 80 employees, 80 full-time employees, but how can we maybe curtail some RPA to maybe redivert some of those efforts into maybe some other automation efforts, maybe not have to go full blow full-time employee right off the bat. And those have been really fun conversations to have with some of our larger enterprises. But definitely the lack of experience, I think, in the small to medium-sized businesses, it's huge. And it's a great opportunity, which I think was what really accelerated Simply Automate's growth is, even 3 years ago, this wasn't available to a small business just because it wasn't affordable. And I think, with the partnership with Electronique and what Simply Automate is really trying to do is we're making it affordable to the small to medium-sized business. So,
Yeah,
2022 is going to be a really fun year.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, I think that's the thing. The growth that we've seen over the last few years in the RPA space and in the market has largely been in the large enterprises, right? Because of the business models of the more traditional RPA vendors, really was only affordable, as you said, to the large enterprises, and that's where all the growth has been. So our mission in working with MSPs such as yours is to make it affordable to the small and mid-market. So that's a great point. And the other thing that you reminded me of is that, you see all the time the articles about, the Great Resignation and the fact that people are, businesses are having a really hard time hiring people. And that also is contributing to the demand for automation because small business owners are saying, okay, I can't hire people. I need to do something to increase my productivity, and automation is in many cases the answer to that.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that. We actually got off the phone with the client that was having issues really finding the right person to hire, right? They were putting up these, they're hiring, they hire them, they just wouldn't work out. And finally, I told him, I said, how many, he had 4 other employees. I said, what are they doing that can be automated? What are you hiring for that can be automated? Let's sit down and talk about that. So we sat down and we sort of worked out something to where we know all the jobs that can be automated that he doesn't have to hire for, the tasks, right? So let's get those out of the way right away. And then start eliminating the ones that your current employees have. So now they can focus on more value-added tasks And you can see from that point on if you need to hire more. Do you need to, but you might need to hire more for customer facing because now you understand how you can eliminate all of these other tasks by automating. And that's because you had to. It was either that or continue going down the rabbit hole you're going down. And he chose to try to figure out how to automate.
Yeah, great points. Thanks. That was good. Okay, so I just wanted to, and I'm sure you're going to cover this again, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits of automation services, both for your clients, MSP clients, as well as the MSPs themselves. So in terms of the benefits to your clients as a managed service provider, working with what we would typically call the end user is competitive advantage, right? In fact, I just recently came across a Harvard Business Review article talking about how automation can be a huge competitive advantage to small and medium-sized businesses, because the more that you can automate and increase the productivity of your organization, the more competitive you are in your market space, right? So that was a really interesting article from HBR that I just came across recently. Second thing is cost savings. So again, because you are automating business processes and operating more efficiently, you're going to naturally accrue cost savings because of that. The third bullet is around reducing errors, right? Because you're taking what are typically highly manual, repetitive tasks that are being done by a team of people, and you are taking some of those highly manual and repetitive tasks and processes and automate them with a bot that is not going to make any mistakes, right? So error reduction is another key benefit there. And the last one I think is really interesting from the standpoint of the Great Resignation and all that, because by having all these boring manual processes, it can lead to burnout and employee turnover, right? So by eliminating those kinds of things, you can reduce that burnout and reduce the churn or turnover of your employees, which is again another form of cost savings for your customers, because it's of course very expensive to hire people. Anything that you would add to that, either David or Wilton?
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a really good point too with the Great Resignation, is like we're so focused on the manual tasks that these people are doing, but I mean, we're also bringing a lot of empathetic joy by hopefully taking those tasks away from people. They're able to creatively think again. They're able to potentially bring that next best idea to that business and truly enjoy going to work again, because the automation is doing that boring task that they dread doing every week or every month. So that's sort of how I always try to keep the human emotion into it. We're not programming people out of jobs. We might just be reallocating, where they're thinking or where their efforts are going. So very rarely do we actually see straight attrition, just because that's not how we operate in 2022. We're not doing this cost savings to get rid of a job. Most of these companies come in and they were I want to keep my full-time staff, but how can I allocate their time better? So
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad you brought that up, and that's actually part of my presentation. But since we're talking here, it's great. I think we see a lot of great opportunities by seeing us automate all these hours, which Dave's going to show you all these hours we saved and how much money these people saved, and it's great. But and that's great because we see it right away. But the joy that we get out is Dave was saying, these people being able to do different things, and that's not really something a lot of data that we collect that we can share with people. Is there's more benefits than we're actually telling you that RPA brings. There's benefits, emotional benefits, there's the physical benefits, there's it's these benefits that you don't actually see that these employees are enjoying a lot more, and that's what we see, a huge turn, and that's why we've seen so much. When we talk to a lot of our clients, they're doing more and more internally because they're starting to see it and they're starting to see the value of it. So that's the great thing about it.
Yeah, and I think that some of those benefits that you're talking about are obviously a little bit harder to quantify. So the benefits are there, but maybe hard to really gauge, from a quantifiability standpoint.
Right.
Then as far as MSP benefits, so a few there to mention would be growing monthly recurring revenue. So increasing your recurring revenue is obviously an important aspect of running an MSP. It's all about, you know, having that recurring steady income stream to grow your business, and by selling RPA as a service, you can increase that, you know, subscription-based revenue. Secondly, the RPA managed services really are what we would call sticky, right? And what we mean by that is that once you've landed an account and have started to deliver automation services to that account, typically you're going to be in there for a fairly long term, because that customer is going to rely on you, the MSP, to maintain and improve that bot over time, right? So you'll be able to stay in the account to manage the bots, and then you'll also be able to typically expand your footprint in that account, sort of the land and expand strategy, to grow your footprint in that account by adding even more bots, more automations to their business processes. So it's a great way to not only acquire new customers, but also expand within existing accounts. So anything else that you guys would add to the list of benefits from your side?
No, I would just say if you're like really exploring this and really looking into it, it's going to be a very long relationship, right? Because we don't build add-ons, and I don't think any other vendor that does RPA as a service really wants to just build a bolt-on and make something work. It's truly going to be the life cycle of your business to, you know, catch any product updates, catch any website updates, to be able to improve the automation. It's a, you know, it's a constant ecosystem and a constant life cycle that, at least at Simply Automate, we stick with you, you know, throughout the tenure of your business. We don't look at it as like, hey, hire us out for this job, and once it's completed, we're done. So I think that's a huge benefit. Think of us as your own developers without, you know, hiring us as full-time employees.
Okay. Yeah, and the biggest benefit, you're getting in early. You're getting in real early. And if you take advantage now, you're going to see the benefits way before this whole world does. So that's a huge benefit.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I just wanted to give a quick intro to Electronique. And really, it's our mission to enable managed service providers to be successful in the robotic process automation space and sell RPA as a service to their clients. So that's kind of our mission, and we'll talk a little bit later about you know, our model for helping MSPs be successful in this space. And with that, I'll turn it over to Wilton and David to present their story.
Awesome, thank you. Share my screen. I mean, if you guys can see it okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, John. Well, first of all, I appreciate everybody being here, and it was I'm glad you're able to cover a lot about the RPA and what it's really doing in the industry, because we can't say enough on how important it is, and that's why towards the end of that, I'm like, you're in early. You know, whoever's on this call right now, that, you know, you're in early. Whatever it is that you're trying to do with RPA, you're in early. If you're trying to do it for your own business, whether you're trying to, you know, if you're, you know, trying to use it as a service, whatever it is, you're in early, and that's the great thing about it. And there's just a lot of things that you need to understand in order to really streamline what RPA can really do, and in order for you to grow your company or grow your business, whatever it is that you want to do with RPA, it's very strategic on how you need to do certain things. And it's been one heck of a journey, I guess you could say, because, you know, we've learned how to do this from working with different vendors, different partners, just talking, you know, different processes. It just became, you know, something that it became part of what we did. But we saw the opportunity when it came down to the SME and SMB market. And we noticed that there wasn't any real true development firms out there to really help these businesses take advantage of these services. Even if they got it, they were like, okay, we have it. Like John was talking about earlier, okay, what do I do with it? Okay, I'm going to hire somebody to do it, or you take it over, you learn it. It was just a process. And I saw these issues, these problems. I was like, well, we're selling the software stuff, but no one's really servicing these people. You know, how are they supposed to really do anything? So I definitely saw like an advantage there. Like, okay, we got to do something there. It has to be something you can do. And so being able to see that at a high level when I first started in 2017, it was really easy to see, okay, it's going to come down. It has to come down. And how do we do that? And so I think it's important to show you the story of where sort of the journey began. That way you can get an idea of how fast RPA is really growing. And we see it now. But 5 years ago, we saw the trend. And so I want to take you on that journey a little bit and show you what that is. So it makes a lot more sense when we talk about, you know, the things that you need to do now in order to take full advantage of this, and how we got to a point to be able to crack the code and make sure that you take full advantage of it with whatever time you have, whether you have an hour a day, 10 minutes a day, a whole day, whatever, you can take full advantage of it. We figure out how to allow people to do that. And, you know, going back to the graph that John showed, and I didn't even know you're showing this. This is just one of my favorite ones, because, you know, you see a huge trend. You see a huge jump in RPA. But what's crazy is that most of the jump is in the service. You see the software everybody needs to buy the software. There's a lot of service that comes with it. It needs to be serviced. You can't just buy the software and let it sit there and let it grow itself, right? So it's got to be serviced somehow. Getting the right, but we're seeing a lot of businesses now, instead of saying, I'm going to hire somebody to do it, they're going to start investing into a company that knows how to do it. And if they know how to do it, it can get us to where we need to get there faster, which we're going to here later on. But just remember these numbers, because I want to share this with you as I'm showing you as our journey was going, and we got to where we're at, how we saw the data showing this is true. This is to be true. This is true, but we saw a little bit more that's overwhelming as well. So it's a big change too, because it's a different market. But I'll share that little secret here in a minute. So the journey really started back in 2017. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, but I just want to give you an idea. Doing enterprise, it was just really, like John was saying, it was in the enterprise world. No one was really doing anything in the smaller businesses. But that's when it got started. And I really wanted to know, like, how in the heck is this happening? You know, how is this really working? So I was just being a fly on the wall and just really taking in everything and really understanding this whole industry. But the whole time I'm listening to everybody in these large companies talk, and they're just talking like it only works at that level. And I started thinking, I was like, well, it has to work for every company. If it works for this company, it has to work for any company. And so I started doing more research, having more conversations, meeting more people, and so I started getting more clients, started asking them questions. Well, then in 2018, I realized, okay, this trend is huge, and it's really trending down to the SME and SMB. It's going to get there sooner or later, and there's nobody really representing, or really no one talking about it or informing anybody about it. So I decided to pack up my bags and move back home and open up my company in 2019. And we started really working with the small businesses, and it was really hard because the vendors that we work with, there was a point where you couldn't do any more. You can automate a couple of things, and that was it, because it was just pricey, and it was always thinking about there has to be a better way. So we're already prepping up. No, mind you, we're already preparing. We already have developers that have already worked in these other companies, and we've done some work already. So we already have qualified developers, right? And so we're just trying to prepare ourselves for an opportunity to when we can touch all the market, anybody. It doesn't matter who the company was. We want to be able to say we can provide for them. And that's when COVID hit. So it sort of slowed down everything, but people started getting more interested in what was going on, what was happening in automation. How can I help my business? So we started getting a little bit more talk. And one of our employees, Dimitri Ortiz, reached out and said, look at this company called Electronic. I was like, who in the heck is Electronic? It had just a crazy name. I was like, okay, these guys for real. If not, we're going to chop them up and their name up. So, long story short, they were preaching a lot of stuff what they can do. And I was like, okay, this is what we've been looking for. This is what really can change. It can change everything, like not just what businesses are doing on any level, on every level, like any business. And this is something that we already have been preparing for. So I just told our developers, like, hey, go at them, eat them up, try to, discredit them and everything. And we already had processes. So we're doing other processes for other companies, but we're also doing it with Electronic to see if it worked. Long story short, I think, it was working great. And the things that didn't, that we ran into little roadblocks, we would respond back to them and let them know, hey, so-and-so can't do this. You guys haven't been able to do this. Within 24, 48 hours, that was fixed. Now we can do it, right? So we just grew some real good interest. So we decided to invest in them in October, a little over a year ago. And then little by little, we started doing more projects and more projects. And then long story short, we started seeing some more opportunities, and we started being able to clean up our presentation and being able to deliver to a bigger audience, a different audience, an audience that it's a need for it. But we saw some gaps in why it wasn't really penetrating into business. And it was a big break for us, because we knew that we had to really go back to the drawing board and basically build a process that we knew that we can help out any business at any level. And I want to show you this chart, because you see, I'm not going to go through this, but as the years gone, we've talked to less and gotten more business. And you saw that trend earlier. It just shows that. But the crazy thing about it is that it's being done more in the SME and SMB market. And I'll give you an example. The SME market, they already know that RPA exists. They know it. They're just trying to figure out how they're going to invest in it. Are they going to bring a team to come in and help me out? So to help my team out, to really build it out, or am I going to hire somebody to learn this? What we've done is we've taken all that out, because we've had the experience, we have the knowledge, we've gone through hundreds and thousands of processes and conversations. So, it eliminates a lot of delays in what they can do, and they see that as an advantage. So we see the SMEs really picking up on this opportunity, taking advantage of it right away. And we're seeing more of the SMBs, doing more research, or not investing as much in not putting more time into it. But we expect that because of the understanding of technology and knowledge and what it can do for you. Not everybody's at that level, right? And we know the bigger the company, the more technology they put into it. So the SME is really hot right now. That's where it's hot. That's where a lot of things are really happening. But on both ends, the SMEs and the SMBs, they want to build those relationships so they can actually continue the RPA journey. Because if you can automate everything in your business, you pretty much can do anything up the front part of your business, the customer-facing part of your business. It's huge. So a lot of these companies now are trying to figure out how to do that, right? So they want to build those relationships, but everybody needs to have that trust. And the reason why there's four things that you have to do when it comes to automation success: it's trust, education, prove that you can do it, and build that relationship. It's like a marriage. You have to build that trust first. You have to really build that trust. They're going to trust you. They're going to open the door for them, hold their hand, whatever the case may be. Same thing. You have to trust them that you're going to hold their hand through the whole process. and you can show them exactly what you're capable of doing. And then you have to be able to educate them exactly what you're able to do. And there's so much technology out there, this gets flooded around and people aren't really willing to spend that time. So when you get that trust and you can educate, and then you can educate them with what you're capable of doing, being able to prove what you can do without them putting any type of investment in but their time is a game changer. And I think that's what made us who we are, is because we're able to do all that before we even charge you a dime. You know, you'll know way before them anyway, going into the process. Because we feel comfortable knowing that once you see this, you'll see the value out of it. And once you see the value out of it, you're going to want to do more and more. That's what we see with our clients, that they're growing. Once they do one, the next one, the next one, the next one, they start coming out, because that RPA moves up the priority list. So there is a huge gap between the understanding of RPA and how to deploy RPA. And I think that's one of the gaps that we're really trying to work on, is because there's a lot of missing parts. And when you do a lot of Googling and everything else, you miss out on really understanding how to take full advantage of it. So, you know, that's what we've done. And the reason why you really want to start getting on this immediately, and we see the trend growing, and we see that trend, you saw those, it's actually almost spiking up. It's clients that we used to talk to that years ago are coming back to us now. People don't even know are coming to us and asking for more information. A lot of people are trying to ask for more information. I'm not saying they're all turning into sales yet, but a lot of them are asking for a lot of information because they're seeing the need for it. And right now, you know, most of the world knows that they heard the word RPA, whether they know what it is or not, they heard the word. But the enterprise is already there. Everybody knows about it. Half of them are already deployed. That's where most of your data and everything's going to come from, is that. If you're looking up RPA, you probably see somewhere in their enterprise, because that's where all the data is. Right now, SMEs and SMBs, we're part of that data now. We're a little bit of the enterprise, where SMEs and SMBs, we're part of that. And right now, there's not a whole lot of awareness, and the deployment's very, very low. And even the awareness is not really aware of what RPA is capable of doing. So that's going to change by 2027. Those numbers are going to change huge. So that's where the growth is. So that's why it's so important to really understand RPA and sort of get involved wherever you're at in your RPA journey. Just make sure that this is not the end of it. Make sure that there's something next that you're going to follow up with this, whether it's the next conversation to see what it can do for your company. But it's something that you need to do. You know, and things you need to start off with, invest some time and find out what that money is, what kind of investment you can do on it, right? What kind of investment? And then talk to an expert, someone that can do it. Someone that knows, that's been through it, can help you find the right network and resources to take advantage of. Then map out a process, you know, find out if it's going to be a good return on your investment, get a POC done, get a demo done, and then make those adjustments and deploy. That's what you need to do to get started. And once you do that, the rest is going to come a lot easier to you. And that's what we've seen. It's come real easy. So I'm going to turn this over to David, but these are the things that we do at Simply Automate. We help educate, and we have more of an awareness platform. So our thing is that we really want to help people understand whatever level of education, RPA education you're at, whatever programs you have or don't have, just wherever you need to start at, where you're at right now, we can hold your hand and show you where you can take advantage of RPA at your current position. That's what's important. And then, you know, we help because we do consult work, we help train, we train other IT teams and development teams how to do this. And of course, we're a full-fledged RPA development firm. That's what we do. And then we're a fairly non-selling staff. We won't go ahead and try to sell you on anything. We don't bug you, anything like that. So you won't feel uncomfortable going to us and asking us questions that we're going to come back trying to sell you on something. That's not what we do. We want to help you. So that's basically it. So David, I think it's over to you.
Yeah, awesome. Wilton, thanks for the intro. Telling us a little bit about Simply Automate and just the RPA development, how to get started. Just want to share a client success story with us. So the beautiful thing about the way we develop RPA is we try to find what Wilton calls a proof of concept. What that is a very easy, not even very easy, it's a rule-based manual process currently in a client's workflows that we want to develop for you first. The reason why we want to do this is to show you instant ROI. So from day one in development, when it goes live, you're going to see immediate impacts. So this table that we're showing, we had a property management company here locally in Wisconsin that they have about 2,500 units, right? And every month they send out lease renewals. The current process manually took between 3 agents about 6 days to complete. Now they weren't working 8 hours a day nonstop on just the renewals, but they would average about 3 hours a day, which equated to 54 total man hours to complete a renewal process each month. So in total minutes, that's about 3,200 minutes. Our bot now that we have developed for them, which does more enhanced steps that they didn't want to do before because it was just a manual task and they want set certain flags, they want set certain triggers because it was done manually. It takes our bot 27 minutes to complete the task start to finish, which is a 12,000% ROI. Different applications that we used throughout this was the popular property management software AppFolio, which is supposed to be an automation software, the client's back office, some Excel, Word documents, which is where the template renewal is. We plug in data into DocuSign, set a siding order, and then set the reminder flags in DocuSign to remind that tenant, hey, please sign this every 7 days. What's beautiful about this as well is we create like own little Excel trackers and logs so that the client can go look and see what the bot sent, at what time, at what renewal rate. It just gives you really good transparency of the history. And it's done in 12,000% faster, like 27 minutes compared to something that took a span of 6 days. While we were actually doing the live demo with the client, some of the renewal rates based off the rules they sent us did exactly what they told us to do. The bot doesn't, mess up with math. They sent out a renewal about $200 a month, more than they would have. They're like, as a human, I don't think I would have sent this out that high. During that meeting, that client signed that renewal, and that was captured $200 a month in increase in rent that they probably wouldn't have captured because of the human element. We've done since 2 other automations for this client, a guest card automation also in the AppFolio where it takes their apartments.com leads and inputs a guest card into their apartments.com along with their own back office website. And right now we're working on automating their 5-day delinquency notices. We're trying to find our own niche as well. Lately it's been in the CPA and finance sectors, but we're really seeing a huge impact in the real estate and property management. Very old business, very old school. And we're just trying to bring some, property technology to the forefront. And, when people think property technology, we want to think Simply Automate. So really excited to see where that sector is going to go for us. So John, appreciate the time for letting us, talk Electronic in our new partnership.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks, David. Thanks, Wilton. So I just have a quick couple of slides to wrap up here, and then we'll get into Q&A. So let me share my slides again. So I just wanted to briefly go over our proven model of MSP success. So Simply Automate is one of many of our successful MSPs that are delivering RPA as a service to their clients. And our model really has, kind of two broad components. The first being the product level, which is the top, and the second being services that we provide to our partners to help them be successful in this space. So in terms of the product line, we have a relatively new product that we're rolling out this quarter, called MSP Toolbox. And one of the keys to the MSP Toolbox is the automation of lead distribution. And so what we mean by that is that we are providing leads to our MSP partners to help them acquire new customers. So sales leads for small, medium businesses that are looking for automation services. And we are automating that process through the MSP Toolbox product. In the middle, we have the Automation Hub, which is really all of our RPA development platform, which we call Studio Pro, and our Orchestrator product, which is the tool that allows you to manage the bots once you've created them and manage the bots across multiple clients, perhaps. And then lastly, it's the licensing and IP protection aspect of our solution that allows you to create your own licensing models for the bots that you create. So your bots are your intellectual property or IP, and you can protect those bots with the built-in encryption protection that is built into our technology. So it allows you to license your bots using whatever licensing model you see fitting best with your business model, and then make sure that your bots are protected so that the client or other MSPs can't alter the bots that you've created for a particular client. And then in terms of services, we have a number of different teams, from partner success to customer support and marketing functions here at Electronique that all support our MSP customers. So for example, partner success provides business consulting and co-selling support to help you sell to and close those deals with your SMB customers. We also have customer support that can help you with bot co-development. So you're not sort of on your own when you are starting off trying to create your first bots or your very first bot for your first client. Our customer support organization can help you with that. And lastly, we also provide co-marketing support and branding support. So doing things like success stories and joint webinars and things like that to help you, again, build your awareness in the marketplace and help you build up your RPA business. And just wanted to close out with a special offer for all of our webinar attendees that if you do connect with our sales team and want to partner with us, that we will provide special discounts and terms and conditions for all of our webinar attendees. So please reach out to our sales team at sales@electronique.com, or feel free to contact me, john.emmett@electronique.com. And I'd like to thank everybody for attending today's session. And with that, I'll start the Q&A session here. So I know that we did get a couple of questions already. The first one we have is asking about the example that you gave, David, on the lease renewal bot and kind of how long it took to develop that. And I believe you already answered the second part of that question, which was kind of how much you charge for that bot.
Sure. So we're really adamant on getting you a development in 30 days or less. This one particular, I believe, took about 26 days to really perfect, get the rules correct, making sure we're using all the applications correctly. And what we typically charge for a proof of concept is about $550 to $600 a month. And then we, after the client sees how powerful RPA can be, their light bulb kind of goes off, and then we start working on the next process for them. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, great. That's great. Okay. Next question here is, what's your definition of an MSP? So that's a good one. Interesting question. For Electronique, I'll tell you what my definition is, and then you guys can maybe share what you would call it. But for me, an MSP is a technology service provider. So it's a managed services provider that provides some form of technology services to their clients, and that could be IT services. So traditional MSPs, typically provide IT services, right? Could be endpoint management, network management, could be cybersecurity services, could be many different sort of technologies, but it's in the technology vein, right? So those are the MSPs that we are working with, and the ones that would typically have IT developers on staff that can, if they're not already trained to become RPA developers, could easily be trained to develop bots. So what do you guys think, Wilton and David? What's your definition?
No, that's it. I think the ones that, you hit on the head, the provide technology services, but also companies that have their own internal team that are looking to bring in a service that can, that their company take full advantage of. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah. Next question is, do you have case studies that helped your MSP to automate their own tasks? So I don't know if you have done that, Wilton, or not, but I know that we do have other partners that do not only use the electronic platform to automate their customers' processes, but also internal processes.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of clients right now that we're working with that that we've done processes for them, and now we're doing it for their clients. So yeah, absolutely. Answer your question. Yeah, we do. We work with MSPs. We help them automate their processes, and of course, we help them automate their clients' processes as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, yeah. I know that we have some other partners that do that, because once you become a somewhat larger MSP organization, you have all the same accounting functions and HR functions and things like that other SMBs do. So automation makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Last question that we have here is, what do you attribute to your dramatic increase in prospect to customer conversion rate in Q4 2021?
Great question. I think it's more people being more aware. It's more awareness. More people are starting to understand that they need automation. And more people are trying to understand, how do I get all that? Where do I go for all that information, right? So a lot of people are that are starting to reach out now, like, okay, I know where to go. So people are starting to reach out now because they know they need automation, but they don't have the back or the resources or the knowledge to get it. So they're trying to figure that out now. And then, the growth has been because now that you understand it, let's try it. Let's try it so you can see it first. That way you can take the skepticism out. So that's why you see that big jump, because a lot of companies are doing that now. We are as well. So that's been a huge jump. And we see the climb even faster this next quarter.
Okay, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, really fantastic growth that you've experienced and driven. So there's a question here, I think kind of related to the previous question about automating tasks for an MSP. So what would be some of the examples of tasks that you've automated for another MSP?
Which is what we did for Keith.
Yeah, we're doing currently right now, like there's sales invoicing, and then there are purchase order agreements between like Epicor and Core Commerce, just some of their own platforms. We've done data file transfers, sort of as like a test for another consulting firm that reached out to us to basically be in-house developers for them to help use their technology. Similar to what John said, after you get to a certain size, you still have the same core accounts payable and accounts receivable function that every business has. So ultimately, you're so focused on building your own business and giving the best product to market that you kind of forget about your own back office. So that's where you can hire us fairly quickly, and we already have 80% of the solution done. We just need to figure out your own intricacies of the business, and you have automation in your back office then. But as far as like specifically to ConnectWise, I can't think of any for that specific vendor.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe they're a customer of Electronic, but I don't believe they're a customer of Simply Automate.
Yeah, I don't believe so at this point, but
yeah,
we'll have to look. So yeah, but I think, yeah, there's some interesting, obviously as a small mid-sized business, there are, common processes that can be automated, no matter what segment you're in. So the last question here is around the minimum investment to get involved. So I guess from your perspective, delivering services to your end customers, what does that look like?
It's kind of hard to answer, just depending on the complexity of the process that client really wants automated. We try to keep our proof of concept where we can kind of gauge it ourselves to know, okay, this can quickly, get them the quickest ROI. And like I said, I think we like to keep that around $500, $600 a month. Would be like the minimum we would probably charge for an initial automation. And again, that's part of how much are you willing to invest? How much labor hours are you saving? For us, that's fairly low when you think of contracting out programmers and developers. I'd say the going rate, especially in the US, is close to $180 to $200 an hour just to start developing. So getting you on that subscription model to get process, and you don't pay until it's live, right? And that's, I think, what's really unique about Simply Automated is you're going to get a product that works for you day one, and we're with you and we're monitoring these bots, and that's why it's a subscription based. We really want to keep that relationship, and we see the value of that partnership and not just collecting a fee up front, putting a bolt on and leaving you hanging for a year, having you reach back out when something breaks and then flipping you another bill. It's not the way we want to do business. So
sure. And we also have, and that's part of been our, a lot of our businesses are taking advantage of our subscription model for sure, because I think it's they've seen the value out of not being able to come up with a big chunk up front. But we do have we have, if most of the time, most of our clients that purchase your software and purchase electronic software, we do have a model where we do the development costs, right? They pay for development. And then we still do subscription where we do the monitoring, the maintenance, the support, and service in the back end as well, more on a smaller subscription model. So we do have that. Those are for more of our larger companies that are looking to invest in the software. But what Dave was talking about is, their average one is probably about $500-$600, because most of our clients on the POC, the first POC, we have to at least see 150% ROI minimum. Usually see a lot more off that first that first one, right? So if we don't see a real good value of one, then it's like, we know that you're not going to get the full value. We've done ones where we done it to where you say, okay, well, let's just do a free one. Okay, so do a very simple one, but it's one that you guys did once a week or once a month, so it really didn't do anything for you, right? So we weren't able to build any value. So we found out, it's like, let's do one that we know is going to save them at least 150% ROI, right? So all of our POCs, I'll say all of them are usually over 100, close to more like to 300% ROI on most of our POCs.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So I was going to get to this. So the asker is saying that the question was for Electronique and the cost for our partner program. So of course we also have a subscription model, and we actually have 3 tiers, bronze, silver, and gold. And I guess I would invite you to reach out to our sales team to find out more details about that and figure out where you best fit into our tier structure. So please reach out, and we'll be happy to give you more information. Okay, well, that was some really good questions there. Thanks everybody for the questions and for attending today's session. And thanks to Wilton and David and Jason for joining me today. Really appreciate you guys being here, and hope everybody has a great day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.